Welcome to another black and white editing video. Today I'm gonna take this raw file and turn it into a picture that is gonna look like this. So of course starting off by converting the picture into black and white, and I'm definitely gonna bring down the highlights here to retrieve all of this detail in the clouds and in the sky. Then I'm gonna bring up the shadows just so we have more detail to work with. And then I'm definitely gonna bring the whites to your right here, just up before they clip. Be sure to hold the Alt key down for that so you see when the whites clip. And then I'm gonna bring down the blacks just slightly. I don't want to overdo it here, just a little bit more contrast. And speaking of contrast, I'm gonna bring the contrast slider to the right, but here also just a little bit. And in terms of clarity, I think the overall picture could use a little bit more plus clarity, but I'm definitely gonna add some more plus clarity later in the sky and in some parts of these houses. So let's go down to the tonal curve, do my regular thing, just bringing up the highlights. And I know the sky looks overexposed right now, but I'm gonna fix that in a second with a graduated filter. But first of all, let me just play around with these other sliders here. Maybe just bring the lights a little bit down. The darks were fine. And the shadows really look good where they were. So I'm gonna take a graduated filter here and actually go minus exposure and just drag it over the sky and make sure I have a very soft edge. And then just gonna drop the exposure to wherever I want to keep it. I kind of want to make this very dark and contrasty, so I'm also gonna bring up the contrast just for the clouds as well as the clarity quite a lot. And I really do like this look. This almost kind of looks HDR-ish, but I really don't mind this for this photo. HSL tool, nothing I want to change there since it's a black and white picture. Split toning, you could add some split toning even in a black and white picture, but I really want to keep this a pure black and white picture, so I'm not going to add any color. And the detail tool definitely going to be important here. Let me go to 1:1 here and just zoom into the picture and see if there's any sharpening needed. And I definitely think a little bit of plus sharpening could work here, maybe around 60. Zooming back out again and bringing the masking slider to the right to make sure nothing of the sky, or at least not too much of the sky, and the street is selected. Everything that's black is not going to be sharpened, and everything that's white is going to be sharpened. So I'm just gonna leave it there. And noise reduction, I really don't think we have too much noise, you know, especially for my black and white pictures. I have my tolerance level for noise a little bit higher than with color pictures, because grain or noise doesn't nearly disturb or distract as much from a black and white picture as it does from a color picture. In fact, it can even add a little bit of mood and a little bit of style in some of the cases. So because we don't have any color, we don't have to remove any green and purple sensor noise either. So let me go straight away down to the lens corrections and just gonna do my two basics things. Here, enable profile correction so it will get rid of all of the distortion, and as you surely know, I like to bring the vignetting back to 0, so just the distortion is removed. And I almost wanted to enable chromatic aberration removing, but since that's a black and white picture, it really won't have any effect. However, a thing that I will add here is definitely vignetting, because this picture almost screams like it wants vignetting. I think it works really well here. Let's just see how much. I might even go very heavy here, bringing the midpoints even more towards the center, something like this, and maybe add around -30. That's really a lot and more than I usually add. And a thing that I will do, even though it's a black and white picture, is go to profile and go and change these profiles and just stick with whatever looks best. Even though there's no color, it still changes the highlight and darkness ratios of the picture. So let me just see here. This doesn't look bad, the default, but this is almost a little bit more poppy, and I really like the highlight look. Let me just see with this one. It's really difficult to choose sometimes, but I think I'm gonna stick with camera landscape here. And these primary color sliders, they will have an impact even in black and white, but it's just so little that it's pretty much not even worth to play around with these. So I'm done with the global adjustments, and I have to say there's definitely a big part missing, and that is dodge and burning, especially in black and white pictures and in pretty overcast scenes such as this one. Dodge and burning can really change your whole picture. So as you know, I like to use the radial filter for that. You could use the adjustment brush as well. But if you use the radial filter, be sure to put the feather at 100 and that you invert the mask, and then you would just want to put some radial filters with plus or negative exposure on the scene. So I'm gonna speed that up and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I've added quite a lot of dodge and burning, here's before and here's after. The purpose of dodge and burning really is to complexify the light and give the whole picture more interest, especially in dark and boring areas that are very evenly lit. Now, of course, it seems obvious at first because you see the direct comparison, but once you look at it for a little while, you really don't even notice the dodge and burning anymore. And by the way, here's a problem I've just noticed from the graduated filter with minus exposure we've added to the sky with a lot of clarity and contrast is here. You can see this pole looks really unnatural because of the way it's so dark compared to the rest of the pole, and that's really a problem you can sometimes get into if you do such drastic adjustments to the sky and if you have some elements still in that sky. Now if you really care about these little details, you definitely want to grab an adjustment brush and just go around these, but also a thing that you can do is just go back with clarity, because clarity really is a big cause of that. And even though it didn't remove it completely, it's definitely better than before on this pole right here. And I actually really don't mind if the clarity is just around 60 rather than 100. So I think the last thing I'm gonna do here is just grab some other graduated filters, one for the very bottom here, having quite a rough edge actually, and just decrease the exposure here to kind of close out the picture from below, and add another one on the top, also with minus exposure, also to close out the picture, maybe even go a little bit more minus. So let's see before and after. Here's the picture before any editing. Here's the picture in black and white, converted to black and white without any editing. And here's what I've made out of it. So it's definitely a nice change. While I'm looking at it, this radial filter right here might be a little bit too much. Yeah, that definitely looks better. It really helps to sometimes go back to see the before and after to see if you've overdone something. But you know, of course, it's just about the difference from before and after. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Like or dislike the video accordingly. Have a great day and keep taking awesome pictures.